Welcome, friends, to another season of W.R. Frady's live ghost stories by the Fireside. I'm W.R. Frady, and for every Friday night between now and Halloween, we will be taking a little while by the Fireside and maybe with friends. Who knows who may pop up as a guest on the show. But between tonight, September through Halloween, every Friday night, we will gather by the fireside and tell a few stories. Hold on a second, make sure everything's good to go. I'm trying to get some, make sure. I got a piece of equipment acting up. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. All right. Well, now, tonight we're going to talk about. You ever have those nights when you wake up for no reason? Just in the middle of the night. Maybe close to dawn, maybe just mid of the night. And even worse, have you ever woke up one of them nights and felt like you really wasn't alone in the dark? The two stories I'll be sharing tonight, that's kind of how we look at the fear of the dark. Excuse me, please. So, grab you a drink, snack, lower the lights, and let's get into the first story. Todd didn't like the dark. He didn't like the dark at all. And so he found it odd in the middle of the night when he woke up. And the opaque, ink-like shadows had gathered around him. There wasn't even enough light in his room to which he could even see his hand moving in front of his face. He could almost feel the shadows touching him and knew that the dawn was still far, far away. As he lay, quiet, hoping that sleep would once again take him. He wasn't quite feeling the urge to drift back into the realm of sleep and dreams. Instead, he felt this unnerving feeling like the shadows concealed someone or something that told him that he was not quite alone. And as he lay there in the bed, the more he thought about it, the more he longed for the comfort of a candle, a light, a tiny flame against the overwhelming shadows. He almost wanted to get up out of bed and go sifting and searching through his bedside table to find such a match or thing. But at the same time, hesitancy and fear held him in the grips of his covers. So as he lay there, feeling as though the shadows were closing in on him, he convinced himself, all right, Todd, we can do this. We're going to get up. And we're going to find a match. We're going to find a candle or we're going to light it. And sleep more at ease. However, he kept just talking, and finally, he mustered up enough courage, even convinced himself, I'm just being silly, it's just my imagination. There's nothing in here but me. I locked the doors, everything's good. So, as he took a deep breath and reached out to try and find a match on his bedside table, at that precise moment, he felt a match get put into his hand. I hope you enjoyed the first story tonight. You know, speaking of bedside candles and so forth, the nobles of our European past were often known to sleep with a candle, a long night, a candle that would last through the night, to sleep by their bed to keep the shadows away. It would be so that the darkness couldn't have an effect on them throughout the night. It's kind of where our modern day nightlights began. But how would that feel? How would that affect you thinking about it? Waking up in the middle of the night and you finally muster the courage to reach out amongst the shadows to find that light, only to feel someone or something put that very piece of comfort into your hand. It would be almost intriguing, maybe a little terrifying. Don't know if it would be at all comforting. Yeah. Before we start our second story, I'd like to make a quick announcement. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, mostly just life getting in the way, things picking up, and illnesses and such. My volume of Legends of Lacey Road, the Legends of Lacey Road Volume 1, is Legends of Lacey Road Volume 1 is having to be kind of pushed back a little ways. I had hoped to have it I'd hoped to have it ready for the Halloween season, and I still hope to have it ready in time for the Halloween season. It just is not as early as I thought, but I would prefer to give you guys quality stories in which you can enjoy time and time again. As we go over these next couple of months, gathering here by the fireside to tell these stories and to share these stories, we're going to have stories from Legends of Lacey Road, maybe Whispering Hollow, maybe even a few originals, some from Folklore. Might be able to get it out here in a minute. But we may also have some from favorite authors like the love the notification. I'll have to silence these things next time. But lost track lost track for a second. But even stories like from Scary Stories and other favorite authors, maybe even Edgar Allan Poe, Lovecraft. So these ghost stories about the fireside, you know, this is going to be just some good fun, like it has been in the last two seasons, which I thank you, each and every one, for having me back for a third season. And I hope that you join me each and every Friday. There will be a couple of Fridays this year that the stories may be maybe pre-recorded and put up on Friday, just because of scheduling matters and possibilities of being out of town. Next week is one of them, so episode 2 will be one of those pre-recorded and done. But I hope you enjoy these stories. I hope that you have looked forward to this. I know I always do. I look forward to telling these stories and getting on here, and it's a learning process, I won't lie. And if you haven't had a chance to check out the podcasts from Coach Mickey, Mel and Friends, for a while we were doing W.R. Frady's Friday Night Frights, in which I was telling the ghost stories from the Legends of Lacey Road. So yeah, go check that out. It's Coach Mickey, Mel and Friends.com. W.R. Frady, look it up. I was on as a guest first, time last year, and around Halloween to tell some stories, and then they brought me on later as a co-host to do these stories once a month. And right now there's been some temporary setbacks, so we're waiting to see what goes on with that. I miss doing the podcasts. They were a lot of fun. And I'm glad to be on here doing this with you guys. So, it's like, again, make sure you stay with me. Tonight I got one more story for the night. And then we'll wrap it up. I might do a few shout outs. Then we'll wrap it up. And the first episode will pretty much kick off the new season and have it underway. Now, for a second story, a tale that is an original that I like to call The Thing by the Window. Randall was usually a deep sleeper, a heavy sleeper. And so he found it odd that he was lying awake beneath the cover, staring at the lazily circulating ceiling fan, and the wee hours of the morning, just before the light of dawn was getting ready to peer over the horizon. Normally, his heavy slumber carried him into the mid-morning and usually found him well rested, but this time he was restless. It was almost as though he felt like something was wrong. So he laid there amidst the murky shadows And he just glanced about his room, just looking about. When he got the distinctive feeling that he was not entirely alone. So he allowed his eyes to linger as he drifted around the room. He saw his desk, he saw the closet door standing slightly ajar as he had left it, with his jacket hanging on the door handle. Saw an old chair with some clutter piled on top of it. And everything seemed normal as he scanned the room. But then, as his eyes adjusted, he suddenly understood that, became aware of this shadowy thing by the window. At first, it could have been mistaken as drapes. Or at least, that's what it seemed. You see, okay, at first, thought it might be drapes, because that's what it seemed. Because, like cloth, its folds laid over on themselves, almost like wrinkles in the fabric. But it was no drapery. As his eyes strained to focus on the oddity which had caught his attention, he noticed that odd, milky white eyes stared back at him. And whatever this thing was, for it was nothing recognizable, its face, if that's what you could call it, was an unearthly collage of animal, reptile, crustacean, and bird, all mixed together, and yet just completely unfathomable as to recognize anything distinctive of what it might resemble. It made a weird slithery pop and things as he was watching it, and it made him wonder, what was it moving? Or was it trying to communicate? Or what was it? And as he stood there, the foul thing just started to move. And like draperies in the wind, except it started to, the folds started to sway, except if there was no wind in the room, so it was as if it was a wind it could only see, as the folds moved. And to his horror, it began to edge forward toward him. He had no description, and terrified beyond measure. He just lay there, with just staring at the thing that began to close the distance, second by heart-pounding second. It got closer. And to his horror, this ghastly tentacle-like appendage reached up and started to reach out to touch him. His breath caught in his throat as he saw this thing's arm, if that's what you want to say it is, just about to touch him. And as it was within inches of his face, a ray of light filtered in through the window as the early morning light of dawn had just peered over the horizon, beginning to banish the shadows of the night. And with a tremble of absolute revulsion, the creature thing saw the dawn, and the light just repulsed it, and it slowly began to fade as it glared at the person that its prey laying in that bed. And Randall watched as it just faded from view as the light of day just come into the room little more by little. He was both horrified and relieved as he laid there taking in everything that had happened, thankful that the dawn had come when it had, but terrified all the same because whatever this thing was, it had come for him. But the greatest question that really, really took him to the edge of his sanity is, for God's sake, what was it? I thank you again for hearing this thing by the window. The original story will be available in Legends of Lacey Road, Volume 1, in a section of the book called Tales for the Fireside. Anyone familiar with the past the websites that had come before my previous blog sites before I started building my personal website, which I'll mention more here in a minute about, Legends of Lacey Road and Tales for the Fireside were hand in hand, as Legends of Lacey Road were the true ghost stories, and Tales for the Fireside were just the ghost stories, just for entertainment, for fun, and basically like original ghost stories. And the thing by the window is one of those Tales for the Fireside, which we're telling by the fireside. There will be many stories like this in the Fridays to come. Again, like I said, we will be drawing from Legends of Lacey Road. We will be telling tales from Whispery Hollow in the Lovelady Township. We will be telling stories from folklore. We'll be telling stories from authors like H.P. Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, and even old favorites such as little bits from Scary Stories and similar collections. I hope you enjoyed this. So before I get going, before we close out for the night, I would like to give a shout out to my friends and family who have all supported me over the years. Without a great many of you, including those of you watching now, this would not all be possible, and I appreciate it. I'm blessed to have so many good friends and family, and great supporters, a good fan base that is growing. For those of you who may have found me through either Radio Rivendell or through Coach Mickey or my Instagram and so forth, I thank you. I thank you for coming on board. I thank you for giving a silly writer from the Western North Carolina a chance to really live out, to live out and pursue this dream that I have of being a writer, an artist, and so forth. And I would also like to give a shout out to some of my other friends, Ron Rosman, Rob Kellum, many of the good friends that I have that have supported me along the way. And along with that, I would also like to thank friends like Chad of Moonrunner 83. Uh, let's see, Megan McDuffie, Kyger Nico, and many of the others who have been there and been good friends and support. Thank you. Also, be staying tuned for news on Papa Stroh's Sinister Cinema, a a fun little jaunt into classic horror movies that will be looking to debut within the next few months. Uh, from Be Your Own Hero Productions, the same crew that brought you The Devil's Daughter. So be watching for that and listen for more. And again, I thank you if you've made it to the end of this little live session, this little ghost story session. And I hope that each and every one of you have a wonderful and safe Labor Day weekend. Maybe you'll have your own ghost stories to tell soon. And I enjoy being able to share these ghost stories with you. So, without further ado, I will let you go into the night. I pray that you have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend. Be safe, and we'll see you again next time. See you in the shadows. Peace.